Good morning, everyone, on this rainy Sacramento morning. We are here for another interview to talk to a couple locals, which I have actually had a great time doing recently. We've been talking to a lot of small press people, which is really encouraging for me because I'm doing some of the same stuff. And I like to see what they're bringing because it's not the same stuff that you can get in every store that you go to. So this morning, we are talking to Kolby Diaz and Mark Nosler about their books. And they're Sacramento natives, everybody. They're right here in town. Then they've got a couple books coming out. Good morning, you two. How you guys doing today?
Good morning.
Good morning. Good morning. Doing well.
Good. So, and you guys are plugging away on the creative streak. We're going to talk about your books, but what I'd like to know is how you two, because you guys are, Kolby, you have a book that you did on your own, and Mark, you did a cover. And then you two are working on a book together. Have you guys known each other a long time? How did you come about as collaborators?
Yeah, I mean, we both work for the state together, and we met about, 5 years ago now?
Yeah, I think 5 going on 6 at some point. I was just thinking about that like the other day. Like crazy. It's been a while.
Yeah, he was in my training class, and there's probably thousands of people that work in this company, and I look over and this guy's reading a Hellboy library edition, and I'm just like, oh, no kidding. And then I started kind of talking to him, praising Mignola's work, and he was like, dude, I'm actually working on a comic. And I was like, get out of town, I'm working on one as well. What are the odds we would meet in this place? And yeah, just kind of started from there.
That's awesome. And that was the beginning of, I imagine, bringing this thing to fruition.
Well, what's funny is we did a whole kind of guinea pig test project before this came to fruition. So there is a whole nother book that is someday going to see the light of day. That we put together as kind of a test project to see how we would be able to work together. Mm-hmm. And that went so well that I was like, all right, dude, I want to bring you my passion project and basically send you the skeleton of what I want it to be. And then he just turned it into this just whole nother thing. And yeah, that's kind of where it began.
So you said passion project. So you guys worked on one. You were like, okay, we'll get back to this. What made Sin a passion project?
Well, this is just, I think as creators, comic creators, there's always that one idea you've always had that maybe you never found the right combination of things to bring it to life. So, I mean, ever since I was maybe 8 or 9 years old, I have this drawing of this character, and I have the Sin title across the top. And yeah, I'd always drawn iterations of it. I've scrapped versions of the comic. I just, I was never really a writer. I had ideas, I had visuals, but I was always trying to be a one-man show and do it all myself. But I would compare it to all the greats and all the comics I liked. And I knew it wasn't quite there yet. So when I met Kolby and I was able to see what he could do with just my kind of jumbled ideas and turn it into like a legit comic that I would read, it was a no-brainer. I was like, all right, dude, I trust you with my baby at this point, not just some guinea pig test project. Like, I want to hand you my baby. And yeah.
And obviously you were happy with it. So Kolby, what was it like to get, because, well, first off, how long have you been writing in general before you decided to work with Mark to create a comic book?
Not very long, like maybe a year or so. I'm the kind of person that I have a lot of passions, and there's so many things in life that I want to be good at and that I'm a fan of, and I'm extremely dedicated to like an almost like insane degree whenever I take on something. So previous to writing, I've always been a nerd. I've always loved comic books and movies and TV shows and all that stuff. And the heroes that I grew up loving, they would like inspire me. So like Batman, honestly, is probably like my idol, even though he's like a fictional character. So like I would channel that into other things. So I was a martial artist for a long time, had a couple amateur fights, and I was training every day, nonstop, several hours a day, because I need something like that in my life. It's just how I'm wired. And I got the job with the state, which was my first like 9 to 5 kind of job. And when I did that, it didn't make sense for me anymore to train martial arts. And honestly, I was feeling kind of like a burnout with that anyways. So I was just like, okay, I'm a stoic. If I can't train martial arts anymore, and then that's what I'm doing all the time and just grinding and obsessing over, let me switch to the thing that I've always wanted to do, but I was always scared to try, which was writing. So not to sound like arrogant or anything like that, but I feel like storytelling comes really natural to me. Like there was a learning curve, of course, but it felt like it going into the writer role felt like I was putting on, you know, a pair of shoes I've had my whole life, or, you know, it felt snug, it felt comfortable. And I immediately just dove in and wrote an entire novel, like immediately, and just like powered through it. And it was cool because my goal was always to do comic books, but just like Mark, like I was the peanut butter and I didn't have the jelly, vice versa. Like I couldn't draw my own stuff. So I was like, what can I do? I could write a novel. I don't need anyone else to write a novel. I did that. It's a lonely process, and it's not comics either. So those are the two cons going against that. And then when I met Mark, from my point of view of the story that he told me or just told, I saw he had a tattoo of what turned out to be the jackal from 13 Ghosts on his forearm. And I was like, kind of like walking past on like a chance encounter, and I saw that, and I was like, is that an Exorcist tattoo? I was like, that looks sick. And he's like, no, it's the jackal from 13 Ghosts. And I was like, even more obscure and something that I love. So like I immediately really liked him. I was like, I need to become friends with this guy. And then I go to the back of the room, and I'm like laid back reading my Hellboy library edition, which took commitment because it's like a massive book. So like bringing my lunch, my backpack, all that stuff, and a book that doesn't fit in either of them. So I'm reading that in the back. And then he came by. I didn't even know he was into comic books. I figured he was like a horror movie guy. I was like, okay, well, I love horror movies, so we could talk about that. But yeah, so we started talking, found out that he was an artist, and I was like, dude, I've been dying to do comics, and I've been writing prose because it's the only thing I can do. I don't even know how to find an artist or anything like that. And it was always something that I was going to just push down the line, you know, maybe break into the novel industry. Maybe people see my work. I know Scott Snyder had the same kind of thing happen with him. Like he was writing prose initially, and then he ended up getting introduced into the comic world. But yeah, I'm sorry. Did I answer your question? Yeah.
Yes, you did more than answer my question. That's great. And here you guys are working on Sin. Sin was the first book I saw when you guys dropped it by. And obviously it did well. People have been picking it up. We've now got an issue 2. Why don't you guys give us a little rundown on what people can expect from this before we talk about your new book, Kolby?
Oof. Yeah, I mean, issue 1 was definitely like the prelude. You know, I come from a music background, so I kind of compare it to an album, whereas you know, that first track sometimes is like a slow, moody interlude that just kind of builds, sets you up for everything. And then this second issue would be the banger. Like this one is just nonstop action, kind of smack right in the face. And, you know, we kind of designed it intentionally to be, you know, a contrast to each other. So as soon as you think you understand what you're going to get out of the book from the first issue, you get the second one, and it's like, oh boy, okay, there's a whole nother side of all of this. And we hope to continue that with each issue to come.
Now, is there anything you can without ruining it, because you were very mysterious there, is there anything you can tell people going into issue 1 that like an elevator pitch maybe of what they're getting into?
Yeah, so essentially the story it's divided into two main characters. Patient 223, he's kind of at the end of his journey, going through this omnirology project, which is essentially the study of dreams and the idea that there might be an actual world you go to when you are dreaming. And there's a facility called Conception Corp that is doing these tests and sending people to this place to potentially retrieve information, resources, artifacts. And some people survive it, some people don't. Patient 223 happens to be one of the, I guess you'd say, lucky ones that have survived it, but they've just been draining this guy for years and years and years, sending him to this place. And he's hearing at this point, he's hearing all kinds of voices from different realms, and they're guiding him on separate missions to where what this facility is telling him to do. So he's not really sure what's real, what he should be doing. But issue 1 essentially picks up with him hearing his kind of last guidance from what we call his muse. And let's just say he unleashes this genetically engineered creature upon all of humanity. And because he has stuff he needs to go sort out in this dream world that we're going to dive into beginning in issue 3. We're going to get a little bit more into that. Okay. Yeah, Kolby, you want to dive in on some of this? He's so much better with explaining it all.
Well,
yeah, I think you got it, man, for issue 1 for sure.
Yeah, I mean, we don't want to give too much away. That gives you a nice setup. I want to show you guys some of the artwork here. Just
yeah,
so you can
that's our guy. Yeah, that's
right
all
here.
feeble little Patient 223.
Very unique. Good use of color in here to really accentuate things. And then for issue 2, just grab right to the center page. There we go. Boom. So this is on the shelf at Empires right now. You guys can pick it up 1 and 2. Where else can they get the book if they're not coming to Empires?
Yeah, so I believe another local shop does tend to carry copies. World's Best Comics. You can pick them up at the link in my online shop, so theartofmarknosler.com. I have a shop link, or if you follow me on Instagram, I have a link in my bio that has a shop link. You can order both issues there or them separately. But yeah, it's a slow burn because, again, we both are working the 9 to 5, so they're not cranking out on a monthly basis, but that's the goal. We hope to keep pushing this to the point where we can quit the 9 to 5 and just crank these out for you guys.
Nice. Well, everyone go to you can see the link below. Go take a peek, get your copy now. If you can't come to Empires, if you go to World's Best, pick one up right there. So let's head on over, because you recently came in, Kolby, with something surprising, because I didn't know you were working on another book. We have got this one, Headless Horseman Frankenstein. Tell us about this. What's what brought this about? It's just such an interesting concept.
Yeah. So the actual real world origin of this is, so Mark and I had been working on Sin, and I was basically just trying to tackle as many angles to breaking into the industry as possible, and then going on Google and seeing how one would do something like that. And what I found was people were saying, okay, well, if you're pitching to Marvel or you're pitching to DC, don't pitch to them their own characters. One, you're going to have to create multiple pitches just based upon, whoever you're going for. So if I wrote a Batman thing, can't go to Marvel, pitch Batman, can't go to Image, pitch Batman, et cetera, et cetera. And it's their IP. So if you came up with a really good story idea and pitched it, they might just pluck the idea and then not take you. So those are kind of the warnings that I was getting online. And then they suggested using public domain characters. So I was like, okay, there's plenty of awesome public domain characters. Let me Google it. And I Googled it, and there was way more than I had even known. I was like, wow, okay, so I have like a embarrassment of riches to choose from here. Which one am I going to choose? And I was like, okay, well, let me try to think of something very creative, original, something that I would like to see. Like anytime Mark or I are doing something, it's always what we want to be reading. Like our Sin brainstorms is just us geeking out and being like, oh, this is awesome, we could do that, etc., etc. So I was just trying to create something that I'd like to see. And initially I was like thinking, okay, well, I could do a Sherlock Holmes story. He's a public domain. Let me do one where he's solving like a grave robber mystery that kind of led into a Sherlock Holmes versus Frankenstein crossover. And I was like, no, I was like, I could push it. And what I ended up doing is just choosing a bunch of public domain characters. And I was like, I'm just going to chop up the best pieces of them and combine it into one pitch. And that's all this was supposed to be initially. So I won't name the public domain characters that aren't super obvious, like obviously Headless Horseman, Dr. Frankenstein, and Dracula in this comic, if you read it. And, you know, it's not too spoilery to say that. There is so many other elements in there that aren't extremely plainly stated, but they're there. So if you read it and you have this in mind, you can kind of pick up on that. But anyways, yeah, I just decided I wanted to combine all these public domain characters figuratively and literally into this storyline, and just come up with the coolest thing that I could think of. I love horror. I love genre fiction. I love like Western gunslinger, lone samurai traveling through, you know, wastelands and coming across these like small towns or whatever. And I just thought if I put all of that together into this thing, it would be extremely flexible, and I could do standalone stories. I could do full story arcs. I could make a complete experience in one issue. That way, you know, with like Mark was saying, with the 9-to-5 jobs, like these comics aren't coming out very often, unfortunately. I wish we could do this full time and they could, you know, come out monthly. But I think, you know, standalone experiences where it is enjoyable in one read. You know, there is going to be an overarching thing. Same thing with Sin and Headless Horseman Frankenstein. But you have these standalone experiences that you can enjoy. That way you're not, you know, too much upset that there might be a delay. But yeah, that's kind of the conception of it.
And you've set it up for a continuation.
Yes. Yeah.
So you do have some more plans for this stuff, obviously.
Yeah. The next 4 issues written. The next story will be a full 6-issue story arc. I'm planning the 6 issues going to be double size, so it'll be 44 pages instead of 22. When that'll happen, I don't know, but it'll happen.
That's ambitious. And I mean, even 22 pages is more than your average comic these days. So, yeah. So you're giving the readers more than Marvel and DC. So that is absolutely fantastic. So where can we find Headless Horseman outside of Empires?
Yeah. So you've graciously allowed us to carry our products at your store. Thank you so much for that. And I am going to bring back another box of issues, and you know, so Empires will continue to carry it. Like Mark was saying, World's Best Comics on, I think the cross street is like Watt Avenue and El Camino over by the Country Club Lanes area. And then my shop link, which is listed on the stream, kolbarama.bigcartel.com. I'm selling them online.
Sweet. That's perfect. Well, great, guys. I'm glad to see you continuing to do it. Please keep us updated on anything else that you have. I assume Sin number 3 is already in the works?
Oh, yeah.
Okay, good. So, no, thank you for joining us this morning, guys. We will continue to push people towards these books in the shop. And then if you guys ever need anything, you let me know. But everybody, please come by Empires, at least take a peek at the books. If you can't, go to the websites. take a look and then support small press, because this is not, as they've said, this is not a 9 to 5. This is a passion project. This is them taking time away from loved ones, from things they could be doing to put these books out for you. So thank you very much, guys. I appreciate it. And it's always very encouraging to see this stuff happen.
Yeah. And again, we want to thank you for all the support you've given us. Everyone who's come by your shop and picked up the comics. We don't know who these people are, but we want to thank them as well. We hope to meet all of them someday. And yeah, man, you're a beacon of hope in this town. So we really appreciate it.
You got it, guys. Well, thank you very much, and enjoy this rainy weekend. And I'll see you guys in the shop.
Yes, sir.